Harnessing Your Wealth isn't your average money podcast, hosted by Billy Peterson, a former jockey turned financial advisor. It's about more than dollars and cents. Each episode dives into the stories, struggles, and successes that define what real wealth looks like. From bold entrepreneurs to everyday dreamers who've learned that true success isn't just earned, it's lived. Because life, like wealth, it's all about how you ride it.
Here we are with Cole Morehead, Royal Vista Ranch, and he's the man of the hour. We wanted to bring him on the show because he's made a big splash in the industry. And Cole, I want you to go back in time. Tell us a little bit about your career before you got into running this big ranch operation. You owned XCEL. It was like a testing company, right? Explain a little bit about that.
Yes, sir. No, I appreciate it, Billy. So yeah, I in 2012 I founded an oil and gas inspection company called XCEL NDT. NDT stands for non-destructive testing. That's what I had went to school for. So, anyways, just hung a shingle in 2012, based out of Kansas, and focused on midstream oil and the midstream oil and gas market, primarily on pipeline integrity and facility inspections. So that's kind of that's the primary business. I'm still a co-owner of the business.
Oh, okay.
And still the CEO of that organization. So,
tell us about, I'm interested in how you got that started. What motivated you to start that? Did you have some background there, or did you work in that kind of industry for a while?
So, I since I can remember, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. It was just one of those things growing up. I don't know. I don't have no idea why. My parents, we grew up in, rural community. My parents custom hayed in the summertime. My dad ended up owning a small feed yard when I was in high school. So they were always kind of, they were doing their, own thing. And that's probably where I caught the bug, but just always thought I wanted to own my own business and operate my own business. So just kind of, went to Kansas State University for a year, majoring in accounting. I got a job at a bank and wearing the long sleeve and the tie every day, and just decided that was not for me. So actually, a cousin of mine and my uncle, or my cousin and I kind of followed in my uncle's footsteps, was to go to a small technical school up in Nebraska and go into this program called non-destructive testing. So it's kind of, I explain it as being essentially industrial doctors. We're out there performing examinations using same technologies a lot of your medical professionals do, and veterinarians. We're using ultrasonics, radiography, doing a lot of, utilizing a lot of advanced techniques to diagnose the assets that we're inspecting and give our clients kind of a rundown of what's operating properly, what's not, and helping them keep their facilities and their pipelines safe. So went to school, was able to get a degree in non-destructive testing, moved down to the Gulf Coast with my fiance, and started working down in all the oil refineries, around the Houston metro area. Was down there for about a year, worked for a very large organization. And, but again, always had in the back of my mind that I was going to start my own company at some point. So I was just kind of always taking mental notes of, what people are doing right and wrong, and what clients wanted to see and what they didn't. And so just kind of took that mentality, had an opportunity to go back to Kansas, work for a very small organization, start a new service line for them. And again, wanted to be an entrepreneur. So that would have been 2010. I asked that organization, the owner, if I could, buy into that organization, and it wasn't wasn't in the cards for that to happen. So kind of set out on my own at that point. Said, okay, I need to do whatever it takes now. I think I have a little bit of experience in this industry. I think, I know some people, and I think I can make this go. So I had a 3-month-old daughter, and my wife at the time, we were living in McPherson, Kansas, had an opportunity come up to move to Panama City, Panama, down in Central America, and work on an island outside of the Panama Canal.
Wow.
And so went down there and managed their welding program and their inspection program for a year. Took advantage of that tax-free income that a guy gets to if you stay as an expat. If you stay out of the country for 330 out of 365 days, you don't have to pay taxes. So we banked a little bit of money while we were down there, moved my wife and my 3-month-old daughter to Panama. And that was where the adventure started. Founded the organization while I was down there, licensed it, and then moved back to Kansas and hung a shingle and just started doing it part time in the evenings and weekends. And that was in 2012. 2013, hired one of my best friends as my first employee. And I mean, it took off. It was just one of those things that, my wife and I, both our parents taught us, how to work very hard. But, they weren't blessed with the opportunity to, or the resources to be able to help us fund some of it. So we bootstrapped it, and it was just, we were putting cash back into it as quick as we could. And I'm telling you, it was a wild ride. We had a lot of success, and it was just a lot of fun, and we're still riding it. I mean, again, it's what's funded my horse obsession. And but we've been involved. My parents ran some race horses, quarter horses, and thoroughbreds when I was young. My grandparents, it's always, we team roped growing up, rodeoed, all of that. So I've been around horses my entire life. Just 2017, Dad and I decided to partner on a mare and get back into the game, and it kind of took off from there as well.
Yeah.
So
That blew up too.
yeah.
Well, you do everything all in, right? You when you do something, you're not going to mess around. You're going all in. You sound like you committed yourself to that business and made it successful. You were willing to do whatever it took. I mean, this is a big part of our listener base, is the people that are interested in how people became so successful and what it took. And obviously there's a lot of sacrifice along the way. You had to put in the hours, you had to grind it, you had to learn, and then take some risks. And then, it paid off because you were willing to take those risks. And of course, never look at the business as a potential failure. You probably didn't even allow that word to come into your mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I'm going to tell you just a couple of things. I mean, my wife, when I met my wife, I knew she was a very independent woman, very hardworking, and, just a rock, and when we actually, this is wild. I had just started XCEL NDT. And at the same time, she started a home healthcare business. And at this point we had my oldest daughter would have been 2, and my other daughter was an infant. And she started this home healthcare business, and her business took off. I mean, she had 13 full-time girls working for her in no time, and was actually more profitable than my inspection company was. And it was one of those things that, we were both getting home 7, 8 o'clock at night. Our daughter, she was picking our kids up from daycare. And we just sat down. We said, look, we're willing to make the sacrifice, whatever it takes to be successful, but we can't both go out. I mean, it was just unsustainable to do what we were doing. And we just sat down and said, hey, we have to make a hard decision. One of these we have to sideline and just and focus. And she very selflessly said, look, my business is more profitable than yours right now, but I think yours has the most long-term gain potential. And so she did. She sold her business to one of her best friends, and became a stay-at-home mom at that point. Was able to help raise our 4 children. Recently added to. And anyways, she's just a very selfless person that's independent, knows what it takes to be successful herself. So she was always there to support me. And I guess what it takes is the sacrifice and everything. What I love about podcasts like this is hearing the stories of all the successful individuals in this world, and there's almost always a common denominator.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a couple of them out there, but at the end of the day, you hit on it. I mean, just willing to do whatever it takes to be successful. And nobody knows what that is until you set out on that journey. You in your mind, you think but until you really lived it and experienced what that looks like, you don't know. You can't even fathom what those sacrifices are going to look like. And I think that's, they say however many, whatever high percentage of businesses fail in the first 5 years. I think that's just the learning curve. That's just finding out what those sacrifices look like, and those people making the decision that, look, I'm not willing to make those sacrifices, and stepping away from the businesses at that time.
Sure.
So again, I think what you guys are doing is great. I think sharing the message is wonderful. because there's a lot of people out there that need to hear the message. They can be successful if they're willing to do what it takes.
Well, you said it. About 80% statistically of businesses fail. Small businesses fail in the first 5 years because of that commitment factor. They just can't figure out how to get over the hump. So we like talking to people who've actually figured out how to get over the hump. And I also believe that it's important to give credit to the people behind the scenes that don't get the credit oftentimes. And you mentioned that. I love that you mentioned your wife and so supportive. And without the stability in the family structure and just the comfort of knowing that you have somebody to share in that whole process, because it can obviously be anybody who started a business or really put their whole life into something understands that the downs and the impact and the stress and the worry can just tear you apart. And without somebody there to pick you up when you're on your knees, I think that's a big part of success too.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, again, I mean, all people from the outside looking in, right? What they see is they see the successful business, they see the growing, businesses, they see the wins, they see the new truck, they see whatever it is out there, and that's really, I mean, those people shouldn't see inside of all the struggles, but I mean, at the end of the day, the countless days that are worse than the good days. I mean, it really. It takes a special kind of person. And I tell everybody, I mean, I have a lot of people, young people in particular, come in and want to talk about, some of the successes we've been able to achieve. And I'm very honest. I try to be honest about everything I can be. And I'll say, it takes a special kind of individual to be able to, get out of bed in the morning and know what you're up against and know that no matter what time you're going to bed that night, you're going to do whatever it takes to get the job done. And not just one day. That's 365 days a year, and the birthdays you have to miss, the friends events you have to miss, just all of those special moments that you have to miss and sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a very unique individual that can mentally and physically hold up to it. And again, there's nothing wrong with being an outstanding employee. That's the other thing I tell people. Hell, there's a lot of opportunities out there. You can be extremely successful and not have to hang a shingle yourself.
Right.
So. Anyways, but no, I think you're spot on that, Bill.
Yeah.
Is there, knowing the success that you've found, is there anything you would go back and do differently if you had the chance?
I've been asked that question a lot of times, and my answer is no. I wouldn't change absolutely anything in my life. I feel so blessed. I will tell you, I do feel sorry for some of the individuals that have had to support me through the last 15 years of my life. My wife, she's a saint. She's unbelievable, and the sacrifices that she's had to share with me. It's hard, but again, I mean, when we wake up in the morning, drink our cup of coffee together, I mean, there's nothing better than sharing the wins with those people that are willing to sacrifice with you. And my wife's, I mean, she's my number one supporter, but you all know that it takes more than just one. I mean, I have a team of individuals in my life that I count on every single day. And if I didn't have them, all the way back to that first employee I hired up to, now at the ranch, I have a general manager, Laura Erickson, and I mean, in a team that is here at the ranch that I can continue to run XCEL and DT. And I know that the ranch is being taken care of. I made a very large investment in that ranch, but at the end of the day, I have faith because of that team that I have, and they have my back every day. And so it really takes a unit, and the people that start talking about I and quit saying we. That's where I really see that disconnect start to happen, is when people think they've achieved all this by themselves.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
it takes a real team to get
Yeah, exactly right. Let's talk about Royal Vista. You bought this ranch, so you started switching gears, I guess. You got that bug that so many people get when you get up to that, hey, I've succeeded in this business and I want to enjoy some things. And so you mentioned that you were involved in horses your whole life and like that aspect of it, but you didn't just go in kind of putzing around having a few mares and like some guys. You went pretty much full bore and bought a very successful ranch, and you've made it even more successful, I would say. How did you go about getting that idea, and then what did you do that made it just kind of switch gears? Because now you're kind of, I feel like very well respected in the industry. You have two, probably the leading racehorse stallions in the whole business, in Apollitical Jess and Flying Cowboy, 1, 2, 3. How did that all come together, Cole?
So, when I bought a ranch in Oklahoma in 2020. I bought a ranch with a racetrack over in Asher, Oklahoma, which is about 30 miles west of I-35, straight east of Purcell, Oklahoma. Bought a nice little acreage down there. I think it was about 120 acres, and beautiful, 5/8 mile track, or I'm sorry, half-mile track. And it was just a beautiful barn. It was a great operation that just needed some TLC. So we came, my parents, my dad moved down, my mom and dad moved down to Oklahoma. They were going to kind of run that operation. We partnered with Ed Hardy, who's a racehorse trainer and quarter horses. Ed's a great friend of mine, became one of my best friends. And him and his wife, we wanted to start partnering in this racehorse game, start playing it a little bit bigger. So partnered with them, and then started this. We kind of tried to help them build their racehorse program. And then with the vision that we are going to kind of offer the cradle to grave, performance horse operation. So we knew that we needed mares, and then at some point we needed to start standing stallions. And Marty Powers, again, I bought my first mare at the Heritage Place off the Marty Powers consignment, and he became a resource for me from day one. And I mean, I'll never forget the first time I met him. He says, "Cole, I will do anything in my power to help you be successful. We need more young people in this industry." So he's always been a very strong resource and just a mentor, and he's become like a second dad. And so throughout that process, there's a lot of communication with Marty, and I just made the decision. I said, "Look, we need to stand a stallion, but we're 30 miles off the interstate, and how important it is to be having access." And so a large racehorse trainer, Mike and Linda Joyner, they were looking for a place in Oklahoma at the time. And then all at the same time, Royal Vista Ranch came up on the market. And anyways, I went to Marty, and Marty told me, he says, "Look, they're Oklahoma and the racehorse industry in general is craving an operation that can handle the capacity that everybody needs, but also is willing to do what you need to do for the little guys, and quit just thinking about the big guys." And he's always been a champion of the little guy. And so anyways, he's a huge proponent of that. And that's why we took the swing. I walked on the ranch here in Wayne. Laura Erickson was the co-owner and general manager. Took me about 30 minutes to know that if she wasn't going to stay on board, I had no interest in buying this operation. She was just a leader, just a vast amount of knowledge and experience. And I told her, I said, "Look, I'm going to make an offer on this place, but just know it's contingent on you staying here and running it for me."
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where that started. We were able to get that deal done. Jill Cook, who was selling the ranch, she is she's wife of the late Vaughn Cook, who he very prolific in the equine reproduction. Worked at Colorado State University. Just started Royal Vista Southwest, Royal Vista Ranch, Vista Equine in Colorado. So he had passed, and anyways, Jill, she honestly, there probably were better offers than what I made on this ranch, but Jill told me that she wanted me to own this, and her and Laura wanted me to own this, and so they worked with me, and it was a great opportunity. And fast forward to Apollitical Jess, again, just through Marty Powers and some of those connections and the experience Laura carried, they were looking at making a move on Apollitical Jess, and we were able to sit down with them and kind of give them our sales pitch. And the Tirados, both Juan Tirado and his family, they had faith in our team and their veterinarian, Dr. Carroll at Oklahoma City Equine. He put the stamp of approval on it, and it just kind of took off. And no doubt that horse coming to Royal Vista Ranch is what's taken us to where we're at today. I mean, what it's like to positive and negative momentum. So our first big win being Apollitical Jess, the rest just kind of took off from there. For Cowboy, they had the trust in the operation because we were managing AJ, and it all built on that. I'm a firm believer in momentum, and when you're riding the positive momentum, it's a lot of fun. But when it turns that other direction, we all know how that can go. So we're staying ahead of it and really enjoying the positive ride we're on today.
That's phenomenal. How many stallions you have there? 14, I think. Is that what I counted?
Yeah. So yeah, we're managing about 15 stallions, some of which are deceased, but we're helping manage their semen and everything. But yeah, we've got pound for pound. I think we have the top stallion lineup in the country. I'm really proud.
Hard to beat it. New young stallion and Jess Dulce. How's his career shaping up so far?
He's just been extremely well received. His brother Dulce Santacha, moving out of Oklahoma last year and down to Texas, and then his father Jess Good Candy moving to Texas. When he hit the market, I actually bought in on that stallion, and when he hit the market, I really thought Oklahoma would be the ideal location for him. His partners, they were really excited about standing him here with our team, which I can't be thankful enough for that opportunity. But with those two, his father and his sire and his full brother moving to Texas, the Oklahoma market's just gobbled him up. And honestly, we'll probably announce him full this week. He's had an outstanding first year, and we're really excited to see what he can do here.
Yeah. How many vets do you have on site there?
So we have one full-time licensed veterinarian. We had two. Our second licensed veterinarian, she had a practice up in the North Country. So she was helping us out last fall and this early spring. Right now we have one licensed veterinarian on staff full-time, and then we probably have 6 vet techs on staff. We utilize a couple Brazilian veterinarians that just serve as vet techs here because they're not licensed, but they're just huge resources for the organization. And then we have Dr. Kay Katulik, who she has one of the best reputations in the industry, in my opinion. All I hear is praise from clients. That when we hired her last year was her first full year in 2025 with Royal Vista Ranch. So she's just been a huge addition for the team.
Yeah, working with the clients we work with, a lot of people in the industry, we hear the ranches that are doing good and the ranches that are not so good. We hear that often, and we have only heard great things about Royal Vista. So you're doing a great job there. I think you have a great team. So you should be proud.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I appreciate it. The team, again, it goes back to, I try to be here as much as I can, but I've got a full-time job in managing XCEL and this operation. They truly care. They care about the clients. They care about the horses. It's special, and the breeding industry, we all know how difficult it can be. There's highs and lows every day. And, but they really care. They put their heart and soul into it. And that's what it takes to be successful in this game.
Really is important. The word of mouth spreads so quickly in this industry that one bad experience, it can take on like wildfire. But also, good experiences, I think they trickle out there. But you just want to try to minimize those bad ones, and the staff and the people that are communicating take ownership when there's a problem. Because hell, as your business owner, we're all going to have problems. We're going to make mistakes. But it's the ones that are trying to hide behind other people or blame somebody else or not stepping up and saying, hey, that's on me. And I think people can see through that stuff. So I believe as a business owner, that's a really critical aspect of it. I think your team is top notch, from our experience with working with them. As you know, we're breeding some mares too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, we appreciate the support. And, I think even in the early days at XCEL, I think, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. When you're a service provider and you provide a service, what you just said, I think so many people could learn from is when there is an issue, if you make a mistake, and even if you didn't make a mistake, you just didn't, the final deliverable was not what the client truly had in mind, taking that head on and owning that and making it right every time that you can make it right. I can't tell you how many times you go into it thinking this is going to be a terrible situation because we made a mistake, or, and again, a lot of times it's a mistake was made, human error, occurred, and you go take it head on, make it right. Don't run from it. Don't claim to be innocent. Just say, look, we made a mistake and here's what we did wrong. Here's what we're willing to do to fix it. I mean, 9 times out of 10, everybody understands. And yeah, I mean, there's those situations. It's just hard to make it right. But I think if everybody took that approach, we'd all be a lot. That customer service aspect, I think we'd be a lot further along in this world than we are right now.
I'm wanting to go a little bit further into the whole stallion side of it, because I know that's a big part of the income from the ranch. You have a whole bunch of different, let's call them breeds and specialties of these horses, from performance horses to the race side and on down the line. But a lot of people are bringing horses there, and you're doing a lot of embryo transfers. I mean, it's getting pretty sophisticated now with the ICSI stuff, and you transfer, you can take an egg and then aspirate, and then you can send it to a different facility. You guys are involved in that the whole way. And now you have people who want to have one mare or have a couple mares and then end up 5 to 10 foals out of those. And I know it's good for business. Do you think that's in any way, shape, or form harmful for the overall industry?
Well, it's always, potentially beneficial financially in the short term, I think, is kind of what we ignore at times. We look at short-term gains and don't look at the long term. And at the end of the day, if the industry is not healthy, it hurts everybody. And there's no doubt. I mean, the breeding technology, what it's allowed us to do. I mean, I'll just say we're not playing God, but we're sure getting close to it. And it's uncomfortable. And I think, at the end of the day, I don't blame anybody. I utilize this technologies just like everybody else does. And I'm trying to get 3 to 4, pregnancies out of my better mares. But what it does, it goes back to that first comment I made, where Marty Power said we have to do everything we can for that little man. When we load these horse sales up in the racetrack and the barrel pens and everything, and we're putting so many of the top bred animals out there, those backyard breeders that maybe have 1 or 2 mares and are just doing it for fun, trying to keep the cash flowing enough that they can continue to play the game, it is just crippling those breeders. And that's the difficult part about this. Because again, that's what this industry was built on. It wasn't built on your top 1%. It was built on the 80 to 90% of the breeders that only own a couple mares. But that's what happens. I mean, you see the corporations taking over the world in all aspects and all industries, and the big guys, I mean, they're just going to continue to get bigger, and the little guys, we're going to do everything in our power to help them have avenues where they can be successful.
Right.
Again, I think there's ways that we can continue to help them, but I'm not a proponent of 4, 5, 6 embryos. Honestly, I hate that AQHA let the cat out of the bag years ago. I know they tried with the embryo transfer and some of those things, but to me, 2 pregnancies per mare a year, I think that's more than a sufficient number to sustain the breed and improve the breed. But again, there's a lot of things. Once you let the cat out of the bag, it's going to be really hard to ever pull it back down. So that's where we're at.
Yeah. Well, I like those comments, and I feel pretty much the same way. I feel like that sometimes we're watering down and we're getting a little too narrow in some of these bloodlines, and it starts to make you scratch your head and think, how is this positive when we're going so narrow into what that is? And when I say watered down, and I mean, think about it, it's just like inflation. When you have too many of one thing, the value of everything goes down. Like, everybody's got access to one. You can have a Mickey Mantle baseball card, and then all of a sudden you've got 5,000 of them out there. Well, they're all worth less. So it's just it's a question in my mind. Sometimes I wish we could just go back to the way it was, or back to like the thoroughbred industry, the jockey club. It's a one deal, and it's a live cover. And I know that's, a lot of breeders and stallion owners and mare owners won't like that comment, but I'm just saying, maybe look at the other side of it from the potential pros and cons of the entire industry, because I do think a lot of our horses are getting more and more fragile. I don't know what your feelings are about bloodlines, but I've always been a big proponent of the thoroughbred blood injected into the quarter horse industry. I mean, some of the top quarter horses that we know have thoroughbred blood, Special Effort, which I still say is he was the first and only Triple Crown winner. He's by a thoroughbred stallion. And so that very, very common all through history. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I think the industry agrees, Billy. So I think it's rare it is rare to find those out crosses, but I do feel like that's why there's certain horses and certain stallions out there that will continue to be popular, even if they didn't maybe win everything on the track. That ability to have that outcross where we can kind of open the horizons up a little bit more. At the end of the day, it the thoroughbred influence. I mean, there's and you see a lot of people try it. It's still, people are still out there trying it every year. I mean, every year we're breeding these really nice quarter horse stallions to thoroughbreds. And then you see the flip. I mean, some of these thoroughbred horses have the management has shared their frozen semen
Mm-hmm.
with some of these breeding farms to manage and try to breed them the quarter horse mares. We haven't been extremely successful with it recently. But I mean, no doubt. I think if you look at our most proven stallion lines out there, a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
that comes from that
Apollitical
thoroughbred
Jess.
influence.
Like, look at his mother. I mean, by the Apollo, thoroughbred. It's everywhere in some of the top bloodlines.
Favorite cartel.
Yeah, favorite cartel
Yeah.
is in the
Yeah.
same camp. So, and you Dash for Cash. I mean, go back to all of them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, and again, I mean, that's I don't want to. I mean, this isn't a sales pitch, but I mean, one of the things that excited me so much about just Dulce and his brother is that they have a little bit of that outcross in them, where we can breed these stallions about any mare out there. You've got your very, very popular stallions and sires that have been so successful the last 15 to 20 years, and these horses can pretty much breed all of those because of just good candy and that that aspect of it, going back to favorite trick as
Mm-hmm.
well. And just again, it's there, it's in the pedigrees, and I'm all for it. Anybody that's willing to go out and try to make the next superstar stallion or mare with that thoroughbred blood, I think it's so healthy for the industry. We've seen some of the other industries that are out there, the cutters and reiners. We think we're narrowed. I mean, you get into some of those. I mean, they're very, very limited to the crosses that they have available just because of how inbred they are. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to be very careful of it. I think the AQHA is trying to put some tools and things in place, but it's a challenge because popular stallion syndrome. It's the first time I heard that word was out at the AQHA Vegas convention this year. Popular stallion syndrome is leading this lack of diversification in the market, and it's all financially driven. So
Yeah.
that's where we're at.
Is it also marketing? I mean, what does it take to make a stallion hit that popular stallion index? What is it marketing? Is it just the buzz?
So yeah, I mean, look, I think it's just a different. I mean, let's focus on the racehorse world. I mean, if a horse comes off the track hot, winning the last couple big races, right? I mean, that's going to drive a lot of that. There's new incentive programs, right? I mean, you go to the team rope in barrel horse world. I mean, if you're not in these big incentives, the buckles, the Breeders' Challenge, if you're not in these incentives, breeders don't have any interest. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, we get calls all the time, and the first question, what incentives are they in? And we're in the process right now of kind of starting something really exciting. I've got to be a little bit careful where it's not off the press yet, but creating an incentive program for the racehorse world. And the thing that we're doing a little different than the others we're going to focus on is making sure we gravitate to those junior stallions and basing that on stud fees. So we're going to give some of these junior stallions an opportunity to hopefully grab a little bit of that attention. And although, yes, it's creating popular stallion syndrome, just the same, we're hoping to spread it out over a larger, group of
Playing
stallions,
field,
just
sure.
the top 3 or 4. So
Yeah.
we're really excited about what that's going to do. But anyways, it's a real challenge, and you can't blame somebody for doing what is most financially beneficial for them. And I think that's where we all get caught up. I mean, yeah, we can cuss the fact that mares are producing 3 or 4 offspring a year, but I'm doing it myself because I know that my number one producing mare, that's where I'm going to make my profit. It's not from that average mare that I'm going to get one baby out of. So it's a challenge for sure. It's something we're all in it to get. I guess we're kind of all in it together, and hopefully we can just continue to do our best on keeping it as diversified as possible.
On the On the industry side and racing specifically, what do you think needs to change, or what's one action item in your opinion that would keep this sport thriving for the next several generations?
I mean, I think there's one thing and one thing only. I mean, hands down, above all other challenges, it's a level playing field of competition. And I'm a very open proponent of level playing field racing. Came in from day one. I'm the individual that I was just going to say, look, I have friends that, I mean, people assume are trying to get enhancement, and friends that aren't, and all the above. To me, it's not personal. I want a level playing field when my horse is in the gate, and I want to know that that gelding, filly, or colt has the same chance of winning based on natural ability as any other horse in any
Right.
other gate. We're not there. And what I'll tell you is, I think there's a lot of steps that are being taken right now that I'm definitely participating as actively as I can on. That I think it's realistic. I really do. With science advancing, we are going to achieve that. And when we achieve a level playing field of competition, this sport is going to explode. It's one of the most enjoyable, fun, addictive, whatever you want to call it, industries and sports. But people are leaving it because they just can't win at the same rate that some of these people are out there winning at. And again, it's not personal to me, right? This is a facts.
Yeah.
And if you never are winning, I don't care what it's in, you're going to quit doing that. And when you create a level playing field where hard work and a little bit of luck and some brains and everything else that goes into it can succeed, everybody's going to start playing this game. And I think you'll see quarter horse racing in particular do in the next 10 years. I think it will be very, very impressive, and everybody's going to want to be a part of it. But again, we're not there today, but it's coming.
It's coming. Yeah, you talk about the little guy as far as the breeding goes, but we would like to see the little guy win the big races too, not just the maiden race every once in a while.
Yeah, we've been in that boat for a while. Certain owners, certain trainers, you can't seem to beat them. And you mentioned it. It's pretty obvious for the guys that have been involved in horse racing for a decade or two or their whole life, 40, 50 years, and starting to see what's going on and who's doing what, and you start knowing what is a realistic range of win percentage or in the money percentage. And no one can take, these average horses and then suddenly turn them into stakes horses and essentially beating everybody without some sort of help. And when I say help, it's not the legal kind of help. It's not like they grained them better. They just know how to wrap their legs better and ice them more. And, all trainers are pretty much doing the same stuff, guys. So if you're listening to this and you're one of these that are naive, I'm just going to be very direct and say, please wake up, because this is not normal. It's not realistic. I remember the days when Lance Armstrong was kicking ass in, the Tour de France, and he could not be beat. And for a while there, for the first several years, I was one of the guys I was a big fan of him. I just thought, this guy is really awesome. He's just so, he has the heart. He has the will to win. I love that kind of person, and cheering for him every time. And then you start hearing the insiders, and they're saying, well, hey, he's doing something. He's on something. And they kept trying to test him, and they couldn't get anything. They couldn't find anything. And so a lot of us were thinking, well, these guys are just jealous. That's all it is. They're jealous. They can't beat him. So they're trying to find a way to poke at him. Well, go on long enough, and you start hearing more and more of the stories about how he's winning. But he's defying everybody. He's saying absolutely not. He's lying to your face. And he goes on national TV and lies to everybody multiple times. And so I guess what we all had to understand from that is a lot of people who we think are above it and who are doing things the right way, and we should cheer for them and root for them and applaud their efforts and applaud their accomplishments, you really get let down. And I think that's a good example to go back into our industry and say, that's just not realistic for that to happen over and over and over again, because you're going to have horses. And you're lucky if you have one major horse in your lifetime as an owner. You might have 5 or 10 horses running a year. And if you have one really like a world champion, I think you've accomplished something. Paul Jones said something on one of our shows a while ago that really stuck with me. He says, as a trainer, he's been training for 40 years or whatever. And he says, when I start my 2-year-olds out and I look and I say, oh, I've got a whole bunch of runners this year. He goes, I don't have any runners. It's like, you're only going to have one that really stands out. But when you think they all look good, none of them are really that good. And that's just kind of goes to show you that some of these stables are doing what others can't. And I'm sorry to say that there needs to be something that brings it all back to that level field.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm a numbers guy, right? I mean, I live by numbers. Numbers will never lie to you ever. And, you hit on something. And I mean, and this is where, I'll circle back around to this, putting partnerships, and it taken not very long at all for people that look at numbers to quickly identify the issue. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's been enough money invested in this industry at every different strategy, at every different pedigree, at every idea has been tested time and time again. And there is a normal range of success in all of those. And if you as a trainer or an owner are outside of that level of success, and I'm not talking 1 year, there are always going to be anomalies. 1 year is an anomaly. 2 years really starts to become questionable. In 3 years, it is mathematically impossible, because we have such a sampling that there's nobody out there that is following that when they're all following the same rules can be an outlier like that. And again, it's proven time and time again. So I agree with you completely, Billy. I think that's a very manageable situation if we put the science behind it and really pay attention to what we're looking for, and maybe quit looking for what's causing issues, but let's just focus on the overall issue and not worry so much about what's causing the issue. Let's focus on the issue, and then if we can identify that as a problem, then we win. And it doesn't matter. We can stop beating our head against the wall. So I think there's solutions to the problem. I can assure you, the entire industry and everybody that I'm speaking with, they see it. It's not, and I'll go back to these partnerships. I brought millions of dollars of investment into the quarter horse racing industry. Started doing this in 2019, putting these large partnerships together where everybody wrote a check from $5,000 to $25,000 and buying in. One horse had 24 owners, and it was a great plan. We had a lot of fun, brought a lot of people in it that knew a little bit about horse racing, but brought the majority of them just wanted to have fun, didn't know anything about horse racing. And we had some early success. Now not real success, but I think we had a couple horses run, between 50 and 75,000. It took them 1 year to start questioning things. And then the next year, running them as 3-year-olds, about 10% of the owners started looking at the numbers and they said, why? What's going on right here? And these are people that didn't even know anything about horse racing. It took them essentially a year and a half, 2 years. They pinpointed the issues. They knew exactly what was going on. And then I just couldn't keep going to my friends and saying, hey, bring your money into this and play on my team. These are the rates that we win at. And I can't explain if these other situations, these other anomalies, I can't tell you, but we're going to be competing against those anomalies and have fun, right? They all went and started buying boats and doing other things with their money, and I didn't blame them one bit. So anyways.
Yeah. How many times we ask ourselves that question is, why am I doing this again? I feel like I've got a good horse, but I cannot outrun said group of people. And it's not necessarily the horse, because if that horse were in a different stable, the horse is an average horse, but I can't outrun these people. So that's the frustrating part. I think so many people listening can relate, and until we get, we all talk about it, all the different governing bodies from AQHA to all the associations around the country, everybody knows. Everybody's the inside knows. But when and how do we finally pull the lid off this thing? There's a lot of different maybe ideas about it. Do we get the FBI involved? Are they already involved? Do we get the IRS? Years ago, there's a great movie. If you haven't watched this movie, it's actually not a movie, it's a documentary. It's called The Hall of Shame. And remember that, Cole, because you can watch it on Netflix. Just look it up, The Hall of Shame. And it's about all these athletes in the 90s, early 2000s who were taking these performance-enhancing drugs, but nobody could catch them. And Barry Bonds was one of them. And a lot of the documentary is about him and other Olympic athletes that we're talking who were kind of mediocre at best in their sport, and then all of a sudden, within a year, are beating everybody in the world. And it goes into all. There's dozens of the athletes, and they actually have a few that came forth and confessed to what they had done, even after lying about it. Of course, Barry Bonds still lies to his grave that he was never on drugs. Right, we all believe that, but what happened was this Balco Labs and his name was Victor Conte, and he's based in California. He was the mastermind. Victor Conte had this lab, and he was providing drugs to these athletes discreetly. No one could catch them. The drugs did not test. They could not test them in any sort of test that was available at the time. How did they catch them? The IRS. That was the interesting part, is because an IRS agent saying he's not reporting income on this stuff. What's going on? And he started snooping around, figuring out there's a lot of money being made here. Who's paying? And he finally dug into it. Of course, Victor Conte lied his way all the way through, served some jail time, but nothing. But anyway, it ended that whole escapade of cheating in these athletic endeavors. Did anyone really pay the price? I don't think to the extent that they took away what they took, but it did end the that run of cheating. So I don't know how that's going to play out. If that's something similar, but we've all talked about it, but nothing seems to change.
No, I mean, I think it's spot on. One thing, of course, we all love the competition aspect of horse racing, but most everybody in this industry loves the animals, right? And if we're really going to continue to have a sport that the public is proud of and wants to build up, we have to put the well-being and the welfare of the horse number one. And one of the biggest benefits I think we have in terms of horse racing versus maybe human athletic performance enhancement is that, the horses, they are pushing themselves past a healthy limit. And, I think humans, although I think that we have the ability to stop before we go past that limit. I don't think, we're not seeing these Olympians and the Barry Bonds and all of these others take themselves past a level where they're dropping past the finish line and dying and exploding their heart and things like this. So I think there's a big advantage of if we're looking for the right things that we can get ahead of this. I do think, absolutely following the money is the easiest way because money drives all of this. But let's be honest. I mean, the thing that you're not naive to this. I'm not naive to this. The industry is not naive to the fact that the very first horse race in the world ever, I can assure you somebody was looking for an advantage. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's never going away, no matter what. Whether we catch whatever's going on now, there's always going to be somebody looking for that advantage. So I really think that's why we need to focus on what we're going to call a level playing field. And then whatever that level playing field is, whoever wants to participate signs up for it knowingly on the front end. And then it doesn't matter. The rest of it doesn't matter. Of course, we're not going to condone, giving illegal substances and harmful products. But as long as everything's in the level playing field, we really don't need to worry about what the rest of it looks like. And I think that's a manageable situation versus chasing this circle and the chemist and all this other stuff that we all hear about. I don't think we ever win that game. So anyways, I do think there's upside. I think there's a lot of opportunities. And one of those things that I'm personally invested in here is this new incentive, and we're going to take, integrity to the next level. We've got a lot of good ideas, I think. And I think that you'll see a lot of quick improvement. If we get everybody on board, like I think we will. So I think, again, I'm gonna remain optimistic. I know it's really easy to get down on this topic, but I'm gonna remain optimistic and say that, I've been hearing the same thing you have, that, they're going to do something, on and on and on. But I think we just need to take a little different approach, Billy.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like the positive approach, Cole. I like to be thinking of the best. Always thinking the best. How about we jump into lightning round? We've kind of got through, beat you up on everything about your businesses and about your thoughts on the industry, and they're all great. We're gonna shorten it up. These answers now are gonna be just spur of the moment, whatever comes to mind, and more on the fun side of things. So, Kate and I are both gonna have some questions for you, but I wanted to ask you, and this may be hard for you to answer, but who's your favorite horse of all time?
I'd have to say Apollitical, Jess. The horse that I think, statistically right now, he's on pace to become the greatest quarter horse racing sire of all time. I mean, First Down Dash is the only sire that's out ahead of him in progeny earnings. And again, look, I just think, as far as he's on pace to be the horse. The impact he's had on the industry. He, all the new sires that are being, sired by Apollitical Jess. We used to call kind of Mr. Jess Perry the sire of sires, but I think Apollitical Jess is going to have the biggest impact on quarter horse racing in my lifetime. And again, in the personal impact he's had in my life and my family's life, he's a superstar horse. His story's amazing, and he, hands down, Apollitical Jess is my favorite horse.
I can see that.
Yeah. Favorite musician?
No, I'm a Johnny Cash fan. Johnny Cash all the way.
I like that.
He thought you were going to say because I heard about your rendition at the, what was it, the convention?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Colt 45.
All you guys that are out there listening, ask him about his rendition of Colt 45. The guy's kind of a superstar in his own right. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll hear that one of these days. What accomplishment are you most proud of?
I'm honestly, I've to this point, I've raised what I consider a successful family. I've married a beautiful woman that truly understands how to be the foundation of a family. We've raised 4 children. We have recently adopted an older daughter that we've brought into the house. And honestly, I couldn't be more proud of my family and what I think, they've had an impact on a lot of people outside of our businesses. And they're just, that's what I'm most proud about, hands down, my family all around.
If you couldn't live in Oklahoma, where would you live?
Panama, the party town, right?
I've lived in a lot of different states and areas. Honestly, I liked Nebraska. I was born and raised in Southeast Nebraska. I think Nebraska is a great state. Kansas, I spent 5-6 years, I guess maybe closer to 10 years in Kansas. Nebraska, I love that. We called that God's country. Nebraska is a great state.
I like it.
Good spot. Who's your favorite athlete?
So, Kansas City Chiefs has always been my favorite football team. Lived through the terrible years, and then the last 15 years have been pretty decent. Last 5 have been outstanding. But Patrick Mahomes, I mean, he's a freak. Look, so Kansas City Chiefs has always been my favorite football team. Lived through the terrible years, and then the last 15 years have been pretty decent. Last 5 have been outstanding. But Patrick Mahomes, I mean, he's a freak. If somebody doesn't get excited watching Patrick Mahomes play football, I don't think they enjoy the sport. So Patrick Mahomes would be my favorite athlete.
Favorite rodeo event?
So I'm a team roper. That's one of my favorite pastimes is team roping. So team roping.
Heading or heeling?
I really enjoy both. I'm probably a better header than I am heeler, but I like heeling a lot.
How often do you rope right now? You're not roping much in this season, or are you?
Well, my boys, I have a 9 and a 7-year-old, 2 sons, and they're both starting to break away rope. And so, anyways, I get a rope a couple times a week. That's kind of here recently, and hopefully this summer be doing quite a bit more. They're just getting the bug, and we're starting to go pretty hard.
That's great. Is there a specific race that you'd like to win? What's the big goal you have for maybe yourself or your family in the horse racing world?
Well, I mean, the All-American obviously is the Super Bowl. You probably, that one holds a special place for you, I'm sure, Billy. But no doubt. But to be completely honest, I've never started a horse in New Mexico since I've entered this game. I just didn't feel like I had the stock or the the right program, I guess, to go out there and compete. So honestly, today, I'd love to win the Heritage Place Maturity. I qualified for that race one time and at the finals, and it's right here in my backyard. And I think the Heritage Place is one of the greatest races in the country, and I'd love to win it right here in my backyard.
Let's go. Awesome. 2 more. Ed, you got one more?
I got one more. I already asked about, he said Johnny Cash. But what about favorite song?
Folsom Prison Blues.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic. That's a good one.
You gotta love that one. You gotta love that one for sure.
He has a way of talking to us through his music. I love that music.
No, he does. Great movie about him too. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a good show.
For sure. They did a good job.
What's your favorite thing about living in Oklahoma?
Just the people. I have you asked me earlier where I'd live. I don't want to move anywhere. This is home. We moved. I sold a portion of XCEL and DT, and they had some businesses down in Texas and Oklahoma. So I moved down here to kind of centralize as one of the primary reasons. But secondary reason was the horse market. The horse industry down here is very strong, and I love the people. I mean, it's just they're good, my kind of people, and that's why I'll be here the rest of my life for sure.
That's awesome.
Love it.
No, we love it too. Horse industry has some great people, and if you're looking to jump into something for fun, selling your business, jump in, get involved. This is a great industry to be involved in. So, I think, like Cole said earlier, there's a lot to be positive about. We have our troubles, we have our issues. We're all trying to overcome them, and I think if we all get our thinking caps on and start figuring out what the best path forward is, we can come up with something that makes sense for everybody, and at the same time taking care of the horse, because that's number one priority for 99% of us, I believe. So thanks, Cole, for joining us today. It was fantastic. We enjoyed talking to you, and our best to your family, and I hope your wife and your kids enjoy listening to this show as well as we enjoyed talking to you.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. I think you're doing an outstanding job. And again, thanks for providing the entertainment and the knowledge all at the same time. I think you're doing something great. So I appreciate you inviting me on.
Thanks a bunch, Cole.
Thank you.
Until next time, guys, hang in there. Stay in the saddle. Talk to you again for Harnessing Your Wealth.
Thank you for listening. For more information about today's show, please check out the show notes. Visit our website at www.petersonws.com or give us a call at 801-475-4002. Peterson Wealth Services is a registered investment advisor. This is a paid-for advertisement. Information presented on this program is believed to be factual and up-to-date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. Discussions and answers to questions do not involve the rendering of a personalized investment advice, but are limited to the dissemination of general information. A professional advisor should be consulted before implementing any of the options presented. Peterson Wealth Services.